over a week of no new infections in Muskoka. Ford does an about-face on cottagers and helping those who can't help themselves. All that and more coming up right now. Welcome to Cogeco News for May the 4th. I'm James Bowler with what's happening in your community. Once again, Muskoka appears to be avoiding any further COVID-19 activity, as for over a week there have been no new infections reported by the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. The downward trend seems to be following the provincial trend, which has been proving to be more of flattening of the curve. This in turn is leading to Doug Ford to change his stance on the way he views cottagers visiting Muskoka.
I had a conversation with one of the mayors in Muskoka. I've asked to get on a conference call with all the mayors in cottage country, and we did the right thing, and we're continuing to do the right thing, make sure that we social distance and self-isolate when we can. But as we see the numbers come down, and by May the 24th, hopefully the numbers are going to continue coming down. We're going to have a heart-to-heart conversation this week with the mayors. There's only so long you can hold back taxpayers from going to their cottages. I'll give you an example in Muskoka. In Muskoka, the vast majority of taxes are paid through cottagers, and and the economy up there. When I was speaking to the mayor, people rely. The retail stores in the cottage country rely on cottagers from beginning of May, probably April, all the way through to September. That's their livelihood. If people go up to their cottage, bring their own food, don't go to the stores, stay at their cottage by May the 24th, there's only so long I can hold the big gates back from these people. They're going to want to go to their vacation property. I understand. And I think we've made the right decision about the cottagers. But as we see the numbers go down, let's just see what happens. But I'm going to have that a wholesome conversation with all the mayors in the next couple of days, and we'll see where we go from there.
And now joining me from his home office is Mayor Graydon Smith. Graydon, thanks very much for taking the time again today.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So, Graydon, we heard from Doug Ford today that he has plans to speak with you and the other Muskoka area mayors some point this week. Now, there was a bit of an about-face from the Premier today, basically saying that, he wasn't able to hold back the cottagers any longer, that they're going to start coming up to Muskoka. Now, obviously, cottagers are coming to Muskoka. That's been an issue that's been happening so far. But up until now, his message has been stay home. So I just want to hear your response on his sort of change of pace on what he's saying here, his messaging.
Well, we'll look forward to speaking with him later in the week as our collective group of mayors and talk a little bit more about that. I think where we are at right now, and I'm sure the Premier agrees, although I don't want to put words in his mouth, is that we still need to follow public health advice. So if there's an opportunity to not travel for people, I'm hoping they're going to take it. And I think the other thing is, the admission on his part that there are people here and there are likely more people to come, and with no means of stopping them, I think there's somewhat of an acceptance that we need to understand that and at the same time prepare for that, and that the cottagers need to prepare too and make sure they're being responsible.
So what kind of messaging do you want to get across to Doug Ford when you do speak to him? Do you have a certain plan in mind as to how you'd like to see this sort of safe traveling by cottagers coming to Muskoka be executed?
Well, as I said, I believe that public health messaging is the number one priority, and the safety of the public is still the number one priority. And if that message is please don't travel, then people need to be heeding that. There are some that will ignore it, for their own, comfort purposes, and others that are anxious to check on property and make sure that what they have up here is still what they left last fall, and maybe that's a day trip up and back. But I really do think that we land on this message of please don't come unless you absolutely have to. And I think that's a relatively small number of people. And if you do, or if you're here, here's an outline of things that you should be doing to make sure that you're not having a negative impact on the community insofar as, exacerbating any of those things we've talked about earlier. About bringing your own supplies and understanding that the health system here has limitations, and making sure that you have a plan if something were to go sideways. So we'll see where it all ends up. I know that a number of people still are not traveling, and many of them have reached out to me to say, we don't want to be in your community until this is over, and when it's over, then we'll come and kind of resume normal programming.
So should people be preparing themselves for this massive influx? I mean, we May 2-4 weekend generally tends to be the time when the majority of cottagers will come up and start spending, weeks at a time, even months at a time in Muskoka. Despite all the messaging, despite all of the, the sort of pretense that's been put out so far, I'm assuming that all of that is probably going to get ignored at that point.
Well, I can't exactly say how the public will react. I think there's a few unique things occurring right now outside of the general uniqueness of this situation, which is that kids aren't in school. And so typically on a May 24 weekend, what we see is a lot of people come up, they spend the weekend at their summer cottage and make sure everything's in good shape, get things ready for when the summertime comes and they can spend even more time after the kids are out of school. Because that limitation doesn't exist right now and may not exist, I don't know if the kids will be going back at all. There may be some people that use this weekend as kind of that transition point. So I'm not exactly sure how the public, will treat this upcoming weekend, but I think it behooves us to acknowledge that we may well see more people than we've seen already. And if we do see that, then we need to make sure that they understand their social responsibility when they're in the area.
All right, great. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll follow up with you following this conversation with the Premier. I do appreciate, again, you taking the time to chat with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Last week, I had an opportunity to chat with Mayor Karen Terziano about a recent council meeting addressing updates on how the town will be helping businesses affected by COVID-19 and streetscape. She also had some updates on other items that may be affected by COVID-19 moving forward.
Just a couple of updates for the community. Our boat launches are still open. Farmers markets are allowed to go as far as the food portion of them. We did put a ban on garage and yard sales yesterday until the provincial emergency is lifted. And the Ironman date of July 2020 has been basically canceled, and no new date has been set at this point. So that was just a couple of information items. And of course, a big one, we extended the no penalty phase for taxes from May 31st to July 31st.
And to see our full chat, you can check out the live stream that was broadcast last Thursday by going to yourtv.tv. Meanwhile, Mayor Paul Kelly chatted with our own Samantha Johnson last week about some of the services affected in Gravenhurst by the ongoing pandemic.
The original mandate from the province with regard to recreational facilities conspicuously left out boat launches. So it's not part of a mandated province of Ontario expectation. So, but you do find, if you do a little check and research, there are municipalities around Ontario that have closed off their boat launches. The only one in Muskoka that I'm aware of, municipally wise, is Georgian Bay Township, and they did that quite a while ago. However, Gravenhurst, and I believe all the rest are open, but definitely Gravenhurst, our boat launches are, the public boat launches are open.
And since we have you, we're going to change the topic a little bit. But
Sure.
Let's talk about wedding licenses. Maybe clarification on that, why it's kind of been stopped, and I guess when can we expect it to come back?
Yeah, I think that again is one of the casualties of things like mandates from the province and or availability of staff to be able to provide that service. And one of the challenge, of course, many of the marriage licenses end up being served, those marriages, in facilities in Gravenhurst, i.e. whether it's a church or whether it's down at the wharf, or if it's at one of the other locations. Of course, they're all closed. So those that want to get married up here would only be faced with the possibility, and you can't have more than 5 people at a function. So the challenge would be certainly from those that are applying for, and this is true anywhere, but true in Gravenhurst, those that are applying for a marriage license wouldn't be able to do so as far as having a marriage in one of our public facilities or even private facilities to stay under the numbers required by the province. But on top of that, that does require additional staff, and we've been trying to be very conscious about our staff being devoted to specific COVID-related issues. And so, we have fewer staff, and because of the fact that the availability of spaces for those marriages take place, we're on hold right now. And of course, that's going to depend on probably the first wave of availability from the province as far as essential businesses. And it may very well be that places like parks become part of the first wave, but we're just guessing, because the province, of course, hasn't given a date and a time, and as well as the new businesses that may come online for essential. So that's still sitting out there. But specifically, it really is about staffing and being able to provide that service. And second of all, the lack of facilities where they would even be able to go to get married.
And for all municipalities, this is a good reminder that you should not be doing any outdoor burning of any kind. All the municipalities have set their fire rating to extreme due to the very dry conditions around Muskoka in the past week. That means until the green up comes through and cuts down on the dryness, there will be no burning of any kind. However, the province has already put a burn ban in place as well for the majority of Northern Ontario to keep the demand on emergency services down due to the ongoing concern of the COVID-19 pandemic. Those caught burning can face very serious and hefty fines. We are taking a quick break, but stick with us for more after this. Welcome back. With COVID-19 still spreading throughout communities, the OPP is asking you to consider whether or not you need to be out on the water right now.
We live in an area that sort of experiences quite a lot of growth at this time of year. People are coming up to, they'd like to come up and open their seasonal residences, many of which are, you require a boat to get to. So we're experiencing that people are being very respectful, and as everyone adjusts to the rules, and many people are calling in to inquire what the rules are because they want to do their part to be respectful of what the rules are that are set out currently. So we do ask that when people are out in boats, it's no different than any other year. It's spring, water levels are high, rivers are moving quickly, and sometimes that can be unpredictable. So we ask that everyone, think ahead, be cautious. If you have to be out on the water, know that the water is very, very cold still. And should you end up in the water, that cold water experience can be devastating and sometimes fatal. So if you do need to be out on a boat, then make sure that you've got the proper life-saving equipment, that you're following all the rules, that you're licensed properly and so on, if you have to be out there. If not, then exercise caution and don't.
And we're back to the break, but stay with us for more after this. Welcome back. The doors at the Muskoka OSPCA are still closed, but the animals are still getting the care that they need, but that does come with some extra cost.
It's the challenge. Although, the health, safety, and well-being of our visitors, staff, volunteers, it remains our first priority. And the decision to close our animal centers is not taken lightly. We kept our doors open for as long as possible, but we really felt it was critical to listen to the health professionals and Government of Canada as we made our decision to close our centers and our spay-neuter clinics to the public. So, and that's in place until further notice. So as soon as we can lighten that up and reopen, we will absolutely be engaging that as quickly as we can. But right now we feel that we need to hang tight and do our part to reduce the spread. And so that's That's what we're really trying to achieve right now. So sadly, we've had to cancel a number of fundraising events. So one of our biggest events that everybody's familiar with is our Bargain Hounds Yard and Bake Sale, which we normally do in July. So while we haven't technically canceled it yet, I would suspect that it won't be going ahead. And some smaller events that we had planned. So yes, our the lack of ability to fundraise is financially challenging for us. And there's lots of ways that our friends in the community can continue to support the animals. So we put together a wish list on Amazon of some items that we would love to have to add to the enrichment value to their time here. So we'd encourage people also to consider if they're putting in an Amazon order for themselves to perhaps pop on to, go to our link and see if you can pick up an item or two for the shelter animals. Another way that people can help is to consider donating to our Urgent Animal Care Fund, which will help cover long-term costs and help ensure animals in our communities are safe should their families face financial hardship, become ill, or if they can't access critical supplies and resources like food or veterinary care. And I think like everybody, we all are still looking forward to the day that we can welcome everybody back into the center.
Well, we're taking our last break, but when we come back, a recap of all the headlines that made news in Muskoka today. Welcome back. Let's take a look at today's recaps of the major stories affecting Muskoka today in relation to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Premier Doug Ford made comments today suggesting that he may ease up on his previously strong stance against cottagers coming to Muskoka or other cottage country areas in the province. The Premier said he can only hold these taxpayers back from their vacation properties for so long. And with the May long weekend quickly approaching, that may be a lot more difficult to control. The Premier also hinted at conversations he plans to have with Muskoka's mayors regarding the cottagers' situation, suggesting he may be looking at coming up with a plan to allow a controlled flow of vacation property owners into the district while still keeping physical distancing a priority. That meeting is expected to happen later this week, and your TV will be following up with Mayor Graydon Smith to hear more about what was discussed and the plan moving forward. And among one of the many casualties of this summer's events is the planned Ironman Run, which runs in Huntsville. Mayor Karen Terziano confirmed the sporting event, which brings tons of athletes to our region, was officially canceled for this summer. The mayor says no new date has been set yet. Finally, just a reminder from the municipalities that burning is prohibited as we enter into the driest part of the spring before the green-up. Anyone caught burning will face hefty fines. And that is Cogeco News. For more information on the program, you can head over to yourtv.tv or connect with us on social media by searching Your TV Muskoka. Of course, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And remember to watch me live at 5 Monday to Thursday. From everyone here at Cogeco News, thanks for watching, stay home, and stay safe.